Today is a particularly special episode as it's our very first one. And talk about starting as you mean to go on. Our first guest is one of the UK's top boxing prospects. He won on his pro debut in December. He is Karol Itauma. And if you don't know about Karol, I should say 8-time national boxing champion and a gold medalist at the Youth Olympics as well. It's quite a pedigree before you even take into consideration all that lies ahead of you. I'm excited to have this chat. Karol, thank you for coming onto the podcast.
No, that's all good. Thank you for having me on.
Before we talk about kind of what got you to this point, let's talk about that fight against Van Posch, because it kind of came at the last minute for you.
Yeah, so when I had a meeting with my manager, Francis, with my team, we weren't scheduled to box until like 2021 at some point, early on in 2021. And then getting the call, like I think it was like on the late November, telling me that, oh, are you ready to box? I was like, what? So it was quite unexpected. So I had 10 days to get ready, 10 days to, get the weight right and everything. So no, it was a good experience, and I'm grateful for the opportunity.
So talk to me about that. With everything that's gone on in the last year or so, it would be easy to not be in shape, to not be ready to answer that call. How did you make sure you were, or was it a last minute kind of rush?
Do you know what? Like me and my team were always in training anyway. Like we were always in camp. We always like tick over anyway. So when we got the call, it was just a matter of just getting the weight down slightly, because I was hovering about that weight anyway. So yeah. I didn't have to drain myself or anything like that. So it was just knock a couple of kilos off, and then get ready to sharpen up, and that was it. We were sparring anyway. I was sparring Lawrence Okoli for his fight. So no, it was all good. I was prepared. It was just a little sharpening bits, and that's it. That was it.
Anyone that's followed your amateur career, which we're going to talk about, knows your abilities, knows everything that you've accomplished. But because this was your pro debut, there's extra pressure. So for it to come about that way, is it a blessing because you don't overthink it, or does it put more pressure on you because you want to look good, but you've had the least amount of time to prep?
Do you know what? I don't think there was a huge amount of pressure. Obviously, I would have liked to have, had a proper camp. But nevertheless, I still went out there and did what I had to do. What position this puts me in is just like, next time I'm out for my next bout, I'll have even longer time to get prepared and get ready. So that's it really.
And he's a tough guy, Van Posch as well. A bit of a journeyman, really, really hard to stop. I mean, as you found, but you got the decision. There was no doubt about that. I think you were quite comfortable. But what struck me was, your arms raised and he applauds, which seemed like a lovely gesture that he didn't have to do.
No, absolutely. Like huge respect to him. I respect everyone I get in a ring with. And I think that's what it's all about, like showing respect, like doing what you need to do and then showing respect.
Yeah. You're 20 years old, am I right?
Yeah, I turned 20 in November.
Very good. Oh, belated happy birthday for that.
Oh, thank you.
Your career to get you to this point, it's such a fascinating story, Karol, and I kind of want to take everybody back, because I think if anyone saw the back of your shorts, to see the 3 flags proudly placed there of Slovakia, Nigeria, and of course of Great Britain as well. Can you tell people a bit about your background and kind of what got you across to England, because obviously you weren't born in England?
Yeah, so the whole story kind of started, like my whole journey started in Slovakia. That's where I was born, in a small city called Kežmarok. I grew up in Žďár, a village, like literally population of 1,000 people, right on the border of Poland, so we could literally walk to Poland. That's where I grew up. When I was 7 years old, I moved to England. In 2007, I moved to England, so I was just 6, turning 7. My dad was Nigerian, so that's where the Nigerian flag comes from. My mum's Slovakian, and then I grew up in England. It was tough starting up because obviously I couldn't speak English, couldn't speak the language. I was just kind of like thrown into it. Even though I was 6, in nursery, I talked to little kids and that, because obviously I couldn't speak the language. Few months went on, I gathered, obviously, as you do, you pick it up. the more you do something, the more you get used to it, the more you like learn. So within months, I learned the language, and then that's kind of like how it really started.
It's amazing, really. I couldn't imagine that experience of being a kid, going to a different country, sitting in
Mm.
classrooms. Very intimidating at that age, I would have thought.
Absolutely, yeah. Because like when my two younger brothers, they kind of had each other. So even though they were chucked in the same scenario as me, they had one another to communicate with. Whereas I just had to like fend for myself, sort of thing. But a few months in, I started gathering the language, started adapting, and we went from there.
Do you remember much about growing up in Slovakia?
Yeah, I loved it. Like that's where all my cousins are, all my family, from my mum's side are. It was what I remember of it. It was a relaxed life. Like as a kid, you don't really have any problems and any like worries and that. So it was something that I still remember to this day, because I always kept visiting it after, like during some holidays, we always kept going back. It wasn't until I started boxing and that kind of started taking priority. So then each summer I couldn't go to Slovakia as much. I could have gone there for like perhaps like just a week, but in life you got put your priorities first.
And it's a big decision for a family to make, isn't it? To take the kids and to move them like that.
Mm. Well, my mum and my dad got married. My dad lived in England, so I think that was the best, the decision to make there as well. And also in Slovakia, there wasn't much opportunities, whereas I think that's what I wanted, like a better life for us as well. So that's why that's why she decided to bring us to England.
And it's all paying off now, so it's great to see.
Absolutely.
When you arrive, it's interesting because I just assumed, oh, he must have just found a boxing club immediately, but that wasn't what happened.
Nah, so as a youngster, I was always an athletic kid. Whether it was running, 200 meters, rugby, football, you name it, I was the athletic one. However, I was never good at anything. Obviously, playing the team sport, it depended as a team. So it wasn't up until I think it was in year 9 where I was in the same class as 3 boxers at the time, and 2 of them were national champions, so the best in England for their weight and age. And I overheard that conversation, and I was like, that's something I want to try. So the following week, I went to St Mary's Amateur Boxing Club, and I never left since.
That's amazing.
Mm.
And
It was tough at first, because for those that haven't tried boxing is very like not only is it physical, but also like the fitness aspect of it. Like you need to be fit, and the first few weeks I couldn't hack it. I couldn't. I was like, nah, this ain't with me, but I stuck to it and kept going.
So those first couple of weeks, you're like, I'm out. This is enough.
Yeah, it was completely different, because like obviously lots of people like watch boxing. That I never used to watch boxing, but like when I started boxing, I kind of like turned to it, and I was like, oh yeah, it looks quite it looks easy, but the fitness aspect of it is a huge part.
Because that's the thing as well. People can go, they're only going a few minutes in this round. Like, why is he sweating so profusely? There's so much energy and everything that goes into it. I'm sure you can explain it better than me, but watching it, it's exhausting watching those rounds happen.
No, absolutely, because a lot of people think that boxing is just physically draining, but also it's mentally as well, because you can't just go in there and, oh yeah, I'm just going to punch. Like you need to actually have a thought process behind it all. So it's not only is it mental, but physical as well. So yeah, those are the 2 systems that I believe play a huge part in it.
What I really like about what I've heard you say in previous interviews is you don't pretend that, you walked into St. Mary's and, threw a couple punches and everyone went, wow, this kid, there was a lot of hard work. A lot of hard work went into it.
Absolutely, because as my coach Dan likes to say, I wasn't one of those like natural like talented ones. Like I wasn't very good when I first started. So for me to like improve, I had to really put my head down and work. And I think that constant like perseverance, that constant hard work and dedication, I think you know, that's helped me improve. And even till this day, like I still need to keep focused, keep my head down, and keep working to reach the end goal.
What do you think it was about boxing that got you hooked? Because, okay, yes, a couple of guys in your class were incredibly good at it, but as you said, the first few sessions were nearly soul destroying. So why not quit? Why keep going?
Because I never wanted to just to like do something and give up. Like my mum used to tell me, if you're gonna do something, do it properly. And boxing being an individual sport, what you put in is what you get out. And I think that's kind of the area that fascinated me. That my mental state went straight away. If I work hard at it and if I give it everything, I'm gonna get out. You know what I put into it. So I think that's what I kept going and persevered. And then within my first bout, I remember stopping a person, like winning by stoppage. And that's, you know, that kind of just slowly builds momentum and then just keep going and keep going and going. That's why I'm here today.
What is that feeling like? Because, you know, for people that aren't boxing fans, they go, "Oh, it's so barbaric, it's brutal," and for others, it's just an adrenaline rush to watch. But what's it like to physically do that? To know that you've been able to stop an opponent?
I can't explain that. It's obviously it's like you get happy and like you're satisfied. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I stopped the person. But for those that don't box, probably don't know like what's behind it all. Like obviously, for example, for a championship, we have long training camps, and when you put, you know, you train and dedicate and sacrifice all them things, and if you should just go into the bout and win it, you're like, yeah, like it's like a satisfaction feeling,
Yeah.
and yeah, it feels good.
Because I can still remember the first couple of boxing bouts I went to, and it was Carl Frampton in Belfast.
Okay.
When you're up close and you see that, it's just amazing. It is an art, and I don't think you really appreciate it till you get a bit closer to it.
Absolutely, I agree with that. But also, like sometimes like the punch that people feel, and then you get punched, and that like sometimes you don't feel them because of the adrenaline. It's after, like when that bat actually finishes, you're like, oh yeah, I felt that one.
We've all seen those interviews. People's like eyes swell up or whatever, and they're like, "No, I'm
Yeah,
fine, I'm fine." You're like, "It's not going to be fine tomorrow."
exactly that.
But it must make you so resilient. I mean, was the kind of control aspect of it something then that appealed to you? The fact that you knew just what you said, what you put into it's what you get out of it. You have some control over your destiny.
Absolutely, like you know, like in contrast to sport or boxing, you get team sports. Sometimes you can have a brilliant game, but then your team lets you down. Do you know what I mean? So it's sort of like it's sort of out of your control. Yeah, you can motivate your team, but it's realistically it's out of your control. Whereas boxing is all down to your preparation, your mental preparation and your physical preparation, and also like when you actually get in the ring. So it's all down to you. Also, yeah, of course, your team has a part, like a part of it. Your coach plays a part in preparing you and stuff like that. But majority of it is all down to you.
And with having brothers as well, was that competitive edge just always in your house?
Sorry.
With having brothers, were you always just competitive with each other anyway?
Oh, absolutely. Like even till today, it's always competitive. Like you always want to like push each other, but I like to call it competitive nature, and positive, because we're not in it to like, how do I explain myself? There's nothing negative towards like each other. It's always like pushing each other on, and you know, and I think that's positive.
So how long into was it before you started being looked at as this guy could maybe win national titles? Because it seems to me you were a late starter, and yet to have 8 national titles at this age and have been to the Youth Olympics and picked up a gold and have made your pro debut, you must have got there quite quickly.
Looking like the way you explained it, yeah, it has happened quite quick, because obviously I started boxing when I was 14. So I'm 20 now, so that's 6 years. And it has been quite a lot in that small period, but it has been a lot of work, like a lot of setbacks. A lot of times I had to like evaluate everything and actually push in order to get to where I am today. So it wasn't by any means an easy a road, I guess. But that's with everything in life. Nothing worth having in life comes easy. So that's it.
You definitely don't like to rest on your laurels, which is a key trait, I think, in any successful person. There's no point. I mean, when you're old, you can pat yourself on the back.
Mm. Yeah, like while like I like to look at it between right now I'm 20 and 30, yeah, and that's why I really, really want to work and really cement. In my head, I've got like a vision of where I want to be, and that's all that's in my mind. I just want to get there, work, take one step by step. I don't want to run, you know, just walk one step at a time, and then that will get me to where I want to get to.
Yeah, and that amateur career really gave you a great grounding as well, because as much as the success, you had some setbacks on the international stage, and perhaps that's a defining moment in your character to be able to come back and to get that gold at the Youth Olympics, having struggled against one particular opponent previously.
Absolutely, it not only helped me and developed me as a boxer, but it also help my outlook on life as well. You are gonna get setbacks, and you are gonna, you know, not everything's gonna go your way, but then it's down to you to either get up and keep pushing, or just stay down. And I believe that I showed that I was able to look at the scenario, evaluate it, look at what went wrong, improve on it, and come out on top. And I think that that's what I'm taking into life as well. You know, you're not always going to get everything your way, but evaluate it, get the setback, and then, you know, push on.
Because I love that picture, you standing something like this. Mine
Yeah.
arms aren't as impressive as yours. I won't pretend they are, Carol. But Kolesnikov obviously dejected, defeated beside you, and because it is mano a mano, you know, there has to be a part of your thinking going into that. He's got the better of me a couple of times. This time, I proved myself.
Yeah, like I had, Carl, remembering, looking back at it now, I had a great camp. Um, Mentally, I was in a good place. Physically, I was in a great place. Going out to Buenos Aires to compete, even like 3 weeks before, which still trained out there. Got some few sparring out there. I felt good. I was in the perfect condition, both physically and mentally. So I knew that it was down to me to either get defeated by the occasion or rise to it. And I felt like I rose to it.
You certainly did. You had the gold round your neck. That proves it all. For any young sports person listening, how do you tune out the noise? Because clearly, when you're boxing for Team GB, when there's medals at stake, people are invested, they're interested. I'm sure your school are talking about it left, right, and centre. Your community's bubbling with excitement. How do you kind of filter all that out and just think about what your camp says and what you need to do?
Once again, I think this falls back to prioritizing. Um, it's all good trying to like join in and you know, like kind of fall into the trap of all that. But I think you need to, for the young people, need to realize the task that's in front of them. It's just between them and, you know, getting what they need to get done. And I think all that around it, they should just kind of like just, yeah, acknowledge it, but don't, how do I explain it? Pay too much attention to that, because that's not important. What's important is them getting to where they want to get to and achieving what they want to achieve. I think everything else around it is just a bonus.
And with all that behind you, was there any part of you that thought about maybe staying amateur for a bit longer and looking towards Olympics rather than turning professional? Because, I mean, that's a huge decision for any young person to make.
Yeah. During the time, there were certain areas, certain aspects that happened in my life that kind of swayed me to make the decision of turning professional. One of the areas being that on my wall when I still in my mum's house, I had a little list of bullet pointed things I want to achieve, and the end goal was to be a world champion. And I felt like waiting for 2024 or, you know, making head start on a professional career and getting to that end goal, I feel like I'd rather, you know, make a start for my professional career. So that's obviously I spoke to my team, we discussed this, and that's what we went with.
Scary moment, or were you 100% sold on the idea?
By the time of the decision, I was 100%. I knew 100%. We already discussed all the areas, and I never made a decision half-hearted. It was I made it knowing.
And when did you put those bullet points up on the wall? I think that's a brilliant thing in terms of, visualize and then achieve and realize.
I think when I was in year 10, so I was probably like 16.
Yeah.
I had the bullet points up until I moved houses.
That's fantastic. So, I mean, not every 16-year-old's going, right, I'm going to write a to-do list of all the things I'm going to achieve in life.
Nah, but I feel like obviously my dad playing a huge role in, bringing me up. My mum as well. They were kind of both strict parents, and I always had the vision of I want to be successful. Even until today, I still have a plan of where I want to get to, and every day I want to make a small improvement in order to get there.
And when you're being signed by Frank Warren, you're on the right track, right?
Absolutely, I'm grateful for that opportunity.
What is that like to start, even before that, brushing shoulders with people who are huge names in boxing? Because, it's part of your life now, and I don't want you to embarrass yourself, like talking big of these people that are your friends. But at the same time, there must be a stage where it's a little bit new and different, and, everyone else is making a big deal of it. So, wow, how do I cope?
So, yeah, obviously getting signed by Frank Warren and competing on the stage, it was a new experience. It was absolutely a new experience. Like all the lights, the cameras, the interviews after the fight. However, I don't feel like the actual boxing process of it all, so like the competing stage, was any different to like what I've done already. So like, still warm up, still have to do the pads and then get in the ring and compete. So that all part of it was completely the same. Like I said, the external things, like the things that I like to call a bonus, that's the only thing that's different. But as you get into it and as you like mature in as a boxer and as a fighter, I'm gonna get used to all that.
So going into those big fights, you said about the psychology of it, the mentality is so important. What is going through your head? I mean, do you filter everything out? Is it just you and the other person? Are you hearing your coach's voice? What is that like? Because that's something most people will never experience.
So when you actually step into the boxing ring, although there might be loads of like the crowd and everything, me personally, I only start to hear two voices, and that's my coaches. So no matter how many people there are in the arena or on the ring or in the stage, you only kind of like minor little like two voices. And what my coach always should tell me is, don't think about the outcome of the fight. So don't start thinking about, oh yeah, I want to win, I'm going to lose, I'm going to. No, don't think about any of that. Think about the next punch, because the next punch is the one that matters. If that kind of makes sense. Yeah. So like, if you then start thinking about, oh yeah, I'm losing, or yeah, I'm winning, and you get hit with the next punch, them two things go out the window.
Yeah.
So that's why I always got taught to think about the next punch.
Because a plan can go out the window so quickly, can't it, with one wrong step?
Especially in the sport of boxing.
Definitely. Do you ever get used to being punched in the face? I know that's such a root one question, but like, I just can't imagine that's ever normal.
I don't know anyone who likes to get punched in the face. So no, probably not.
No, it's something I guess you have to psych yourself up and prepare for. I just love the discipline, not even just of all the preparation that goes into it, because obviously there's diet, lifestyle, there's sacrifices with your personal life that you have to make. But when you're in that fight scenario and someone gets you with a good punch, adrenaline could take over and you could forget everything you've been told to do.
I agree with that. Yeah, sometimes it can go out the window, and then you kind of like go back to like your default. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna try and have a war. But I think that's when it's important to always remember the game plan. You can't just always have everything your way. So I think that's why always having a game plan and sticking to it is vital.
I had a little look online, and some bookmakers are offering odds on you in the next 10 years achieving that goal of yours to be a world champion. I mean, they're even talking about your youngest brother, Enrico, doing that, and I know he's had some great success already. Is there a wee battle between the pair of you who can get a strap first?
Um, we haven't spoken about that like that. I don't. Maybe there might be, but I don't. We haven't really spoken about it like that. As long as we go to that angle of achieving our dream, I think that's what that matters.
And what is kind of your short-term goals now? Obviously, you want to get back out there again in the not too distant future. Have you anybody you got your mind on at the moment, or what ways things shaping up?
No, I don't. There isn't anyone I have my eyes on at all. I feel like me and my team have kind of evaluated everything that we have to improve in ourselves in our game. So I feel like these next year or so, it's all about learning, all about gaining that valuable experience, getting bigger, getting better, getting stronger, so that when we do kind of step on the scene where we're ready to kind of have our eyes on the titles and stuff like that, we are more than prepared and more than capable of getting them and bringing them home.
And I've seen one newspaper's already put you in the top 7 boxers to watch at 2021. What does stuff like that feel like to read?
It's always, obviously I see it as a blessing, and I'm grateful for the opportunities I'm getting, opportunity I've been given, and that's why I'll make sure I take them with both my hands. But that doesn't put me off. Like I said, that's all bonuses. The thing that I have to concentrate the most is training, getting bigger, getting better, getting stronger, so that I improve and reach my end goal.
My last boxing question before I move on to some sort of lifestyle things, which I want to ask you about as well, is: do you have any heroes? Is there anybody that you look up to now and you think, I'd love to emulate this guy? Because obviously you sparred with some amazing people already. You work with some great people in your camp. Who are the people you think, if I could achieve what he's achieved, I've done well?
Well, probably like the biggest name in boxing right now is Canelo Alvarez, isn't he?
Yeah.
What he's done, but up until now, it's been Anthony Joshua. The way he's kind of done it, like winning the Olympic gold, winning the UK crowd over, winning the people over, and then becoming a world champion. I think that's a great path that is laid out for youngsters like myself to aspire to achieve.
I lied. I have to ask another question off the back of that. Fury, Joshua. I mean, wow, it's finally going to happen. What are your thoughts?
I feel like it's an amazing fight. Like, obviously, I don't think it could be any more of a contrast in styles. There's nothing I can say. Like, it's a fight I'm 100% looking forward to seeing.
Are you nervous for your boy Joshua?
I feel like the athlete that has the best preparation and the ones that want it the most on the night is going to come out with it.
Yeah, I cannot wait to watch it. It's going to be amazing. Talking about sort of some lifestyle stuff, I want to talk about your fashion interest first of all, because for anybody who's watching this on my YouTube channel can see that lovely top you're wearing, which that's your logo. Tell us a bit about your fashion interests.
Yeah, so that started in 2017. Like the whole idea of it and whole overall concept. I was lucky enough to kind of get connections with one of my mentors today. Her name's Nikki King. She's helped me with the whole of like the trademarking process and all the that kind of aspect behind it all. And although I started in 2017, I felt like I wasn't mature enough to actually kind of handle the whole responsibility and take it on and start it successfully and properly. That's why it kind of stopped for a few years. And this year, I feel like I'm mature now and I'm ready to actually, take it on and actually make that vision, that idea, an actual reality. So that's what I've been working on alongside my boxing and my work as well. Is really getting all the base of it properly done, so that later on this year it can grow.
It's what comes across really quickly talking to you is you like to keep busy.
Absolutely. I feel like when I just sit there, well, I can't just sit there and just be on my phone doing stuff that's not going to benefit me in the future. So that's why I like to take my time wisely.
So you've obviously had a keen interest in clothing, just looking good, dressing nicely, to get to the point where you think, I'm going to create my own brand and start to make my own clothing.
Yeah, I think the idea of having a brand that represents the family name and represents my lifestyle and what I like and my passion is something I always wanted to do. And now I'm really starting to bring those things together. I've had that experience now, and I want to kind of like carry on learning and bring that together so that in the near future it can grow and be a name that kind of everyone knows.
So if anybody watching or listening to this wants to have a little nosy and kind of see what some of your stuff looks like, apart from what you're modeling there for us, where can we find it?
So it's Itauma. Just the Instagram page is Itauma and underscore.
Love it. As easy as that. So you can go and you can find it and have a look and purchase something if you want to.
Yeah,
The other
it's not available yet, but later on this year it will be. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So watch this space, but we've got in there early with that. I'm looking forward to seeing it. The other thing is, looking, you're also trained to be a financial advisor.
Yeah. So I'm one of my mentors. He's a financial advisor, and I've been lucky enough to work in a financial firm. To be currently working in a financial firm alongside my boxing, and it's an area that always fascinates me in terms of like money and growing it and stuff like that. So I'm lucky to be in that area and always gathering experience and learning from the best.
It really does kind of get rid of the old stereotype. You know, people used to think of boxers in a certain way, maybe like meathead, just big, strong men, whereas clearly articulate, intelligent athletes.
Well, I'm lucky enough to also have my mentor Jamie on with me, helping me like overseeing all the stuff that's going on, so that I don't get delved into like a difficult or a position that could put my career on a hold or put my career in in a bad place. So
Yeah,
I'm grateful for that.
it's all the side, I guess, of being a professional athlete that people never consider.
It definitely is. Like people just think, oh yeah, it's just boxing, like, do you know what I mean? But there's also loads of things behind the scenes that take place that needs a lot of attention to as well.
Yeah, and I mean, when I was looking through, I noticed you were a head boy at your school. It just seems to be whatever you set your mind to, Karol, you achieve it.
Like I told you before, my mom just told me if you're gonna do something, do it properly. So I feel like in life, if you do give something 100%, you might get setbacks, but if you carry on and persevere, you are gonna get it.
So you're not in your mum's house anymore. You've got your own place. Have you got a little diary or a wall or something with some new bullet points jotted down?
Oh, absolutely! Like for 2021, I've literally got one of them big books. I think, oh yeah, it's right here. So I got my big book, and every morning I'll write my plans out, write what I need to do, and I feel like keeping that visual checklist and visual understanding of where you want to be kind of helps and kind of keeps you motivated and to carry on working and not waste that time.
You're going to want to make sure you keep hold of those because one day they'll be worth a bit of money.
I'm sure I will. I will keep on doing.
No, I just really, really like that way you kind of map things out for yourself and the laser focus that you've had. I think it's a great example for anyone listening because let's face it, you know, the last 12 months have been very hard for people to get motivated, and I don't think I could blame anybody for kind of down in tools in this time. So what would you say to anybody who's kind of feeling a bit flat, whether they're boxers or not, in terms of finding that energy that you found within yourself and the determination?
The advice that I would give is, I believe that everyone kind of in their head has a visual kind of a visual example of where they want to get to or where they want to be. And if they haven't already wrote it down, I feel like writing it down and writing your goals down and where you want to be, what place you want to get to is very important. Because the way I can like to look at it is, you have two ships. One ship has a cabin crew on it, and they know where they're going. They're gonna get to the end goal. Whereas if the other ship that hasn't got a cabin crew in it and nothing, that ship is just gonna get drowned, like it's gonna be an ocean, and it's not gonna get to that end point because it has the navigation. And I feel like you writing them points down of where you want to be is a perfect way of you getting closer to where you want to be. So I think that's the advice I would give. Really, really daily write yourself down of where you want to be, and kind of each day have a little evaluation process. Oh yeah, I'm getting closer. Oh, okay. I've got to do this, I've got this, I've got to do this. I feel like when you write it down, you can see everything. And I think that's going to play a big role in my life.
And it creates a great image as well, because if you want to get somewhere, you have to set off on the journey. You can't wait for someone to take you.
Absolutely. There's never a perfect time. Just like, you know what I mean? Like, you always have to like just take that risk and start it.
Yeah, it's a wonderful bit of advice to kind of finish on. I really appreciate your time, and I think that people will take some inspiration from what you've been able to achieve, and maybe one day you'll even appreciate it more because you're in that mindset. I can feel it talking to you. You're still in that mindset. You're like, yeah, I've done this, but I'm going to keep going. It's a really impressive start to your journey, and I hope that upward trajectory just keeps going for you, Karol. I really do.
Thank you, Michael. I truly appreciate your time. I truly appreciate also the opportunity you've been giving me. Given to me, and yeah, I'm excited for what the future holds as well.